For about 6 years in the 1990s, Electronic Arts had cornered the market on open-world, overhead shoot-'em-ups. Games like Desert Strike and Urban Strike allowed players to hover over large levels, taking out both air and ground units. It was a revolutionary take on the popular genre that should have spawned dozens of copycats. But that's not what happened. Instead of taking EA's lead, many developers opted for the familiar embrace of the traditional vertical and horizontal shooters. After nearly 2 decades, Project Root has picked up where the Strike series left off. It's an overhead shoot-'em-up that sees players flying around huge, open-world landscapes full of enemies to gun down, tanks to blow up, and missions to complete. It's an explosive science fiction shooter that is unlike any other game on the PlayStation 4, in both good and bad ways. You play Lance Rockport, a pilot for the rebel group Arcturus. You've been sent in to free the world from the evil clutches of a corporation known as Prometheus. We accomplish this task a piece at a time. We start by destroying the main fuel refineries hidden deep inside the forests, and then move on to the production factories that supplies the other side with enemy ships. Before long, we're tracking down help in the snowy mountains and investigating news of a dangerous prototype weapon. This all leads to an exciting final encounter at the heart of the Prometheus base. While most traditional shooters send in their fastest-moving jets, Project Root takes a different approach. Lance pilots what amounts to a small helicopter, a craft that can hover over land and fly in any direction. The ship is able to shoot down enemy aircrafts, as well as take out ground units with powerful bombs. This is a fun dynamic that forces players to pay attention to both air, sea, and ground. On top of the usual guns and bombs, players will have a chance to pick up a cool variety of power-ups. You get the usual lasers and homing missiles, as well as an incredibly useful item that cancels out enemy bullets. And with every character you shoot down, your experience bar climbs. Lance will be awarded bonus points that he can use to level up the ship's defense, add more powerful weapons, and improve the overall speed. While most shoot-'em-ups are a little more than traveling from point A to point B, Project Root has a lot more going on. Many stages have multiple objectives, including a few secondary missions to complete. Because there's so much to do, many of the stages take the better part of an hour to complete. Even if you don't spend a lot of time getting blown up, the game will take quite a few hours to wrap up. Although I wouldn't classify the game as being especially difficult, it's a little too easy to get in over your head. Rushing into battles is suicide, as enemies will swarm the player's ship from all sides. The idea is to take a slow and methodical approach, clearing different sections of the map to make the overall mission easier. But even when you play defensively, Project Root can be aggressively frustrating. The biggest concern is the lack of checkpoints. Dying means starting the level over from the beginning, which is especially angering when you put an hour into getting to a boss. There were moments when I vowed that I would never play the game again, only to come back later and finally complete the stage. It doesn't help that the game is stingy about dropping extra lives and health icons. Project Root has a nasty habit of unexpectedly ending missions if you fail to complete an objective on time. This means starting the level over again, sometimes without knowing what you did wrong. With levels this large and so much going on at once, it's easy to lose track of what's urgent and what's not, and sometimes that has devastating consequences. While not a terrible-looking shooter, Project Root is definitely more fun to play than it is to look at. To the developer's credit, there's a number of backgrounds that really stand out. However, too much of the game is made up of generic landscapes that lack any discernible personality. The fast-paced gameplay makes up for some of this, though PS Vita owners will put up with more slowdowns than their PlayStation 4 counterparts. While Project Root doesn't get everything right, it's nice to see this type of game break free of the horizontal and vertical shooter tropes. It's a fast-paced action game that evokes the spirit of the Strike series, something I've been hoping would make a comeback in popular culture. But even with the thrilling moments and massive levels to explore, the unexpected deaths and frustrating lack of checkpoints overshadow many of the things Project Root gets right. Hey, thanks for watching my review of Project Root. I know you're still reeling from what you just watched, but I recommend you follow this up with my review of Ziggurat. which I posted yesterday, and then stick around for our review of Shovel Knight, as well as something called Why Am I Dead at Sea? I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that you can get more content by subscribing to our channel and leaving a comment below. Actually, leaving a comment below won't get you more content, but it will make me feel better about myself.